Let me tell you something I've learned after more than 15 years of sitting across from couples in my practice here in Savannah, Georgia. Something that took me years to understand, and something that I think every man listening to me right now needs to hear. My name is Dr. Lily Harper. I'm a relationship counselor, and I've spent the better part of 2 decades helping folks in their 60s, 70s, and even their 80s rediscover what it means to connect with the person beside them. And if there's one thing I can tell you with absolute certainty, it's this. The women in your life are talking to you all the time. They just aren't using words. I want you to think back for a moment. Think back to last Sunday, maybe after church, when your wife sat next to you on the porch. Did she lean in just a little closer than usual? Did she rest her hand on your knee for a second longer than she needed to? Did she laugh at something on the television and then glance over at you, waiting to see if you'd laugh too? If you miss those moments, I want you to know something. You're not a bad husband. You're not a bad man. You're just like most of the fellas I've worked with over the years. Nobody ever sat you down and taught you how to read these things. Your daddy didn't teach you. The army didn't teach you. And Lord knows the high school football coach didn't teach you either. But I'm going to teach you. Right here, right now, because I believe it's never too late. I've seen 78-year-old men walk into my office in downtown Savannah thinking their marriage was as cold as a January morning. And I've watched them walk out 6 weeks later holding their wife's hand like they were teenagers at the county fair. So let me start with the hardest truth first. Most women, especially women who grew up in our generation, were raised to never come right out and say what they want. Not in the kitchen, not at the dinner table, and certainly not in the bedroom. My own mama, God rest her soul, was from a little town outside Charleston, and she would have rather walked barefoot across hot coals than tell my daddy directly that she wanted him to hold her hand at the grocery store. But she'd brush her fingers against his when they reached for the same shopping cart. And he knew. He always knew. That's the language I'm talking about. It's older than television, older than radio, older than the automobile. It's the quiet language that's been passed from mother to daughter for generations, and it's still being spoken in your living room every single evening. The question isn't whether she's speaking it. The question is whether you're listening. Now, I want to be real careful here, because I've seen too many men take this kind of advice and run in the wrong direction with it. I'm not telling you that every gesture means something romantic. I'm not telling you to start reading into every single thing the woman at the post office does when she hands you your mail. What I'm talking about is the woman who has chosen to share her life with you. The woman who knows your snoring, your stubborn streak, and the way you like your coffee in the morning. She is the one who is speaking to you in this language, and she has been speaking it for years. Let me tell you about a gentleman I worked with a while back. I'll call him Walter, though that's not his real name, of course. Walter was 72 years old, a retired electrician from just outside Atlanta. He came to see me because he thought his wife of 46 years had stopped loving him. He said she didn't talk to him anymore. He said she spent all her evenings in the kitchen or out in the garden, and when he tried to sit next to her on the couch, she'd get up a few minutes later and find something else to do. I asked Walter to do one thing for me. I asked him to stop talking for a whole week, not go silent, mind you. I told him to still say good morning, still ask how her day was, still tell her he loved her. But I wanted him to stop trying to solve things with words. Instead, I wanted him to watch. Walter came back the next week looking like he'd seen a ghost. He told me that on Tuesday evening, his wife Marjorie had come out to the back porch where he was reading the paper. She didn't say a thing. She just stood in the doorway for a minute, then walked over and sat down in the rocking chair next to him. She didn't bring a book. She didn't turn on the radio. She just sat there. And Walter, for the first time in maybe 10 years, put his paper down and looked at her. She reached over and took his hand. That was it. That was the whole conversation. And Walter told me, with tears in his eyes, that he suddenly understood she'd been doing things like this for years. And he'd been too busy with his paper and his television and his own worries to notice. That's what I want for all of you listening right now. I want you to notice. So let's talk about what to actually look for. And I want everyone to understand that what I'm about to share isn't some magic trick. It isn't about decoding a secret message so you can get something you want. It's about seeing the person you love more clearly so you can love her better. The first thing I want you to pay attention to is proximity. Where does she choose to sit? Where does she choose to stand? If your wife walks into the living room while you're watching the ball game and she sits down on the far end of the couch, that's one kind of message. But if she sits down right next to you, close enough that your shoulders almost touch, that's a completely different message. She's telling you she wants to be near you. She's telling you she feels safe with you. And in a long marriage, that kind of closeness is worth more than 1,000 bouquets of roses. The second thing to pay attention to is her hands. Women, in my experience, tell you almost everything through their hands. Watch what she does with them. Does she touch her hair when she's talking to you? Does she rest her hand on the table near yours, close but not quite touching, like she's leaving an invitation there? Does she straighten your collar or brush something off your shoulder, even when there's nothing really there? These little gestures are not accidents. They are her way of saying, I see you, I'm thinking about you, I want to be connected to you. The third thing is her eyes. Now, I know some of you are probably rolling yours right now, thinking this old counselor is getting sentimental. But I promise you, after 15 years of this work, I can tell you that the eyes really do tell you everything. When your wife looks at you across the breakfast table and holds her gaze for just a second longer than usual, she's saying something. When she watches you while you're telling a story, with that soft look that you probably haven't seen since your wedding day, she's saying something. And when she looks away quickly when you catch her looking, well, that's saying something too. That's the same shy, girlish thing she probably did when you first started courting her back in 1960-something. The fourth thing, and this one surprises a lot of the men I work with, is how she dresses when it's just the two of you at home. I'm not talking about fancy dresses. I'm talking about whether she puts a little effort into how she looks, even on a quiet Tuesday night. Did she put on a nicer sweater? Did she dab on a little of that perfume you gave her last Christmas? Did she fix her hair even though nobody's coming over? If she did it for you, and that's a message all its own. She's telling you that you still matter enough to show up for. And I can tell you, the greatest gift you can give her in return is to notice and say something simple like, "You look real pretty tonight, honey." Now, here's where I want to be very honest with all of you, because I think a lot of the content out there about this topic gets it wrong. It gets it wrong because it treats women like a puzzle to be solved, or worse, like a lock to be picked. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm not giving you a list of tricks. I'm inviting you to show up as a real partner to the woman who has stood beside you. Maybe for 50 years, maybe for 5. Because the truth is, no amount of reading signals will matter if you're not also willing to speak up yourself. Let me say that again, because it's important. You have to speak up yourself. Don't just sit there waiting for her to give you a sign. Don't turn this into a guessing game where she does all the hard work. Real connection is a two-way street. If you notice she's been sitting closer to you on the porch, say something. Something simple like, "I sure do love sitting out here with you." If you notice she fixed her hair, tell her it looks nice. If you notice she's been reaching for your hand more often, reach for hers first next time. Beat her to it. Here's a story I think about a lot. A few years ago, I was working with a couple in their late 70s from a little town out near Macon. The husband, I'll call him Raymond, was one of those old country fellas who didn't say much and never had. His wife, Louise, told me in our first session that she couldn't remember the last time he had told her he loved her. Raymond got real quiet when she said that. Then he looked at me and said, "Well, I brought her coffee every morning for 40 years. I thought she knew." Both of them were crying within about 30 seconds. Because you know what? She did know in her way. And he did love her in his way. But neither of them had ever learned how to close that little gap between knowing and feeling. That's what this whole business is really about. Closing the gap. So I told Raymond to do something very specific. I told him that the next morning, when he brought Louise her coffee, he should sit down at the table with her instead of standing by the counter like he usually did. And before he took a single sip of his own coffee, he should look her right in the eye and say, "I love you, Louise," just 3 words. That's it. Raymond did it. And the next week, Louise came in and told me that she had cried for 10 minutes straight in the kitchen that morning. Not because she was sad, because she had been waiting almost 40 years for him to say those words over the coffee, and she had almost given up hoping. I want every single one of you listening to understand something. The women in your life are not asking for fireworks. They are not asking for diamond rings or fancy vacations or poetry. They are asking for presents. They are asking for you to show up, to look them in the eye, to put down the paper, to turn off the game for 5 minutes, and to really see them the way you used to see them. That's it. That's the whole secret. And I'll tell you something else. The men who learn to do this, the men who really get it, They tell me their whole life changes. They sleep better. Their blood pressure goes down. They laugh more. They feel less lonely even on the quiet days. Because loneliness, in my professional opinion, after more than 15 years of this work, isn't really about being alone. It's about being around people and still feeling unseen. When you start seeing your wife again, really seeing her, you stop being lonely too. It works both ways. Now, I know some of you listening right now might not have a wife at home. Maybe you lost her. Maybe you're divorced. Maybe you never married in the first place. And I want you to know that this message is still for you, because the language I'm describing isn't just about marriage. It's about human connection. It's about the sister you haven't called in a while. It's about the lady at the senior center who always saves you a seat at bingo night. It's about the neighbor who brings you a plate when she makes too much pot roast. These women are speaking the same language in their own way, and they are telling you that you matter to them. The question is whether you notice and whether you say thank you. And let me be clear about something else, because I think it's important. Noticing these signals from a woman who hasn't chosen to share her life with you is a completely different thing. I'm not teaching you how to read strangers at the grocery store. I'm teaching you how to see the people who are already in your life, the ones who have already opened the door to you. Respect is the foundation of everything I'm telling you tonight. Without respect, none of the rest of it means a thing. I want to share one more thing before I let you go. Something I've been thinking about a lot lately as I get a little older myself. I think our generation, the men and women who grew up in the 50s and 60s, got handed a really raw deal when it came to learning how to talk about love. Men were taught to be strong and silent. Women were taught to be patient and accommodating. And a whole lot of real feelings got buried under all that politeness and all those roles. But here's the good news. You don't have to stay buried. No matter how old you are, no matter how many years of silence are behind you, you can start today. You can put down the paper tonight and look at her. You can reach for her hand first. You can say the thing you've been meaning to say for 20 years. And I promise you, I have seen this with my own eyes hundreds of times. She will meet you halfway, maybe more than halfway, because she has been waiting for you, the same way Louise was waiting for Raymond. So here's what I want you to do tonight, before you go to sleep. I want you to find her, wherever she is in the house, and I want you to just stop for a minute. Don't say anything fancy. Don't try to make a big moment. Just go sit next to her. Put your hand on hers. Look at her face. Really look at it. At all the years and all the love and all the life you've built together, and then tell her one true thing. It can be anything. It can be, I'm glad I married you. It can be, I don't tell you enough how much you mean to me. It can be, thank you for the coffee this morning. One true thing. That's your homework from this old counselor down here in Savannah. One true thing, tonight, before bed. I've been doing this work for more than 15 years now, and I can tell you with my whole heart that it is never too late. Not at 65, not at 75, not at 85. As long as you're breathing and she's breathing, there's time to close the gap. There's time to see her again. There's time to let her know that all those quiet signals she's been sending, all those years of sitting a little closer and fixing her hair on Tuesday nights, all of it has been received. All of it has been seen. That's what I wish for every one of you listening to me right now. Not tricks, not secrets, just the simple, beautiful, hard work of showing up for the person beside you. Thank you for spending this time with me tonight. I know it isn't easy to slow down and listen to an old counselor talk about feelings, but the fact that you stayed with me all the way to the end tells me something real about you. It tells me you care. It tells me you want to do better. And that, more than anything else I could ever teach you, is where real love begins. Take care of yourselves, take care of her, and remember one true thing tonight before bed. I'm rooting for every single one of you. Good night from Savannah, and God bless.